taxed enough already. Tea time, and we really had enough. It's tea time. We're taxed enough already. Tea time, and we really had enough.
New Jersey Tea Party Coalition. One of my guests today is Adrienne Savage. Adrienne, you're with the New Jersey Tea Party Coalition, one of the, I guess it's close to 850, 900 individuals who were part of the group today. What got you started in the Tea Party movement?
Well, after the election, you know, I had spent so much time and energy during the election to try to convince people, you know, the potential of what could happen if, you know, all three branches of the government were, you know, one side, and what would happen if, you know, Barack Obama got into office. And then when it happened, I went through this whole little period of depression, and I wanted to find some way to get involved. And I began scanning the internet, and I went to one of the first tea parties in Morristown, and then I found the Tea Party Coalition through Freedom Works at the time. And I went on that first bus ride on September, you know, 12th, and I drove up there by myself. I told my husband, I gotta do something, I gotta go. I went and I got my markers, you know, from the craft store to make my signs, and I drove out in the dusk of morning, and I showed up by myself, standing there with my signs, not knowing anybody, but I really felt that I had to connect with other people who felt the same way that I did. And it wasn't long after just standing there a couple of minutes that people began to come up to me and actually speak to me, and we began to talk about how we felt. And after being on that bus that day and having been so frustrated for all those months, not really having anybody to share how I felt about things, and it was like, you know, going through a desert and then somebody giving you your first glass of water, because everybody that I met that day, from the whole ride down on the bus to when we actually got there out in the field, everybody just had so much positive energy. I didn't hear any negative words, and everybody was so knowledgeable. There were people who just weren't talking about, you know, things that they had heard on the radio. There were people who had actually taken the time to read and to, you know, read the bill and to read about history, so that they were all able to connect everything together. And I felt I felt so good after coming back from that trip and really spending that time with everyone. So
you said it was like getting a fresh drink of water.
Yes.
You know, and so I could take it to say that you're certainly not one of these individuals that have drunk the Kool-Aid of
No.
liberalism and
No.
aggressiveness and so
No.
forth.
No. I've always been conservative. All of my friends that I'm around, I like to jokingly say they're Democrats, liberals, or radicals, you know. And so I spent my whole life, you know, really combating, you know, everybody else around me, and trying to be the voice of reason, and really trying to explain why I felt the way I feel. And so being around so many people who just didn't feel the way that I felt, but also understood, you know, the path that we were going down, and so many people who really love this country. I used to travel a lot for my work, and one of the things I used to love is when I went out to the Midwest. Because when I went out to the Midwest, there was so much love. You knew people loved the country because you saw the flags, and there was a lot of pride. But unfortunately, we live in a part of the country where that's not always demonstrated. And being a conservative, it's, we often live in the shadows. That's what I like to say. But I outed myself many years ago. But, because, we're afraid of always getting beat up and
Now, that's not physically beat up.
No, not physically beat up, but
in the open exchange of ideas in the community.
And being shut down or being retaliated against because we don't have the same beliefs that other people do. So, the Tea Party gave me that opportunity to share and express openly how I feel in terms of my love for the country and my concern for the way that things are going. And, and every time I talk to somebody, when I go to one of these meetings, I learn something new. There's never any time that I speak to anyone and I don't get an education. So, they inspire me to find out more about history and to find out ways to get information out to other people. So, it's important to me because it's giving me a way to express how I feel.
Yeah, it's as if that there's a movement within the hierarchy of the country and the government to keep us in the shadows and keep us from really knowing what's going on. Would you say that, in your opinion, that the general populace doesn't have a clue?
I would say many of the people that I know don't have a clue, but I spend time trying to educate them. One of the things that I do, we have the Tea Party Times. I take it upon myself to take a couple of them to the local merchants, and I feel it's important that, sometimes people shut down the message or they don't want to know because they feel like it's too involved, or they have a thought that, people in the Tea Party represent a certain thing. So I try to put a face on the people who are in the Tea Party and let them know, I'm your neighbor. We're not all the same. But in terms of, the general populace not really understanding what's going on, you just have a section of people who don't want to know. I've come to the conclusion that there's some people who actively want to be ignorant because, I don't know, maybe it's too much for them to take in, or it does take initiative to find out more information, more than just listening to what other people say and say, well, I heard. You have to go get a book. You have to go look things up.
Right.
You have to actively seek out the information. And everybody doesn't want to do that.
Well, you have been seeking out the information. And I know that you've been involved with our research committee. You've been involved making sure that when information comes out that we know what the truth is, where the sources are. You as an individual, though, really have been one who has a dedication towards being open about your ideals.
Right.
In the community, in the general populace, what do you think people think of the Tea Party movement? What do they think it is about?
They don't really have a clue. I mean, some of the people, when I come up to them and I open up the conversation with my Tea Party Times, I get the kind of shock, and I think a lot of people aren't paying attention. Mm-hmm. I still believe that there's people out there who, because we've gone off the map in terms of the regular news now. If they're watching the regular stations, ABC, NBC, CBS, we're no longer.
Are anybody really watching that anymore?
Unfortunately, a few people are, but so they don't know. Some people believe it's just a passing fad. I know they actually say to me, like, you're a member of the Tea Party, well, what do you guys do? And I explain to them, this is from my perspective. I tell them, we're trying to educate people. We're trying to give people more information to make them aware. I tell them, a lot of times they're shop owners, and I say, we understand that you have your business, you may not have time to go out, but at least if you take a few moments to look at the Tea Party Times, then you can at least become a little bit more knowledgeable, because a lot of the things that are happening are going to directly impact you and your business. So you just have people I've decided there's those individuals who are just going to keep their heads in the sand.
Right, about 30% of the population are those that are unreachable.
Yes.
But there are those that want to make a change, that they see that there's something wrong and they want to fix it. Now, I understand that you've taken steps to try to fix it. You've become a part of the county committee?
Yes, the county committee in Teaneck. And, you know, Teaneck for a long time has been dominated by the Democrat Party. And I believe, based on the number of people that we've got to join the county committee in Teaneck, even though we still have a couple of seats that need to be filled, we have twice as many as we had before, so now we have 11, which is a big number for us. But we have people who are interested enough who actually wrote in their names, where before, you know, people weren't paying attention to local politics really on any level. So we've also started a Facebook page for the you know, Teaneck Republican Club, and we're hoping to get more people involved. You know, we're hoping to get out and become more visible and reach out to those people who are not only just conservative or Republicans, but those people who are independent, and also some people who are Democrats who all have the same beliefs that we do.
So the idea is to make what is perceived to be a exclusive Republican organization to be open and large, to accept everyone and
Absolutely.
to stand on ideals.
Absolutely, because, you know, I keep on saying, you know, conservatives and Republicans have a very bad PR problem. You know, everybody has this image of what a conservative is or what a Republican is, and they don't know that it's all types of people. You know, it's people like myself. You know, it's young people, it's old people, it's people of all different races. But unfortunately, the nature of a conservative is we like to stay in the background. We're not always as vocal, and you know, we're skeptical people, we're analytical people. So
Well, we once were in the back. Once we were in the background.
We're out of the shadows now.
And now we are saying, don't tread on me.
There you
because
go.
As Americans of the Revolutionary time period, when this flag was instituted by the Marine Corps initially, we've adopted that to make the statement that as Americans, Congress, don't tread on us.
Yeah, there you go.
You know,
that should be our new motto, but we need to get out there and really become visible inside of the community so that people see the face of what a conservative is, that it's their neighbor, it's, you know, their friends, because a lot, you know, some people,
it may even be themselves.
You're right, you're absolutely.
They may not even realize it.
Well, that's a whole other thing. Convincing people that the way they live every day and the choices that they make are conservative choices, and recognizing it and accepting it.
That's right. And the choice of whether or not you're going to be a patriot and follow the Constitution, or if you're going to stand in the shadows and do nothing, is up to you. Come and join us at NewJerseyTeaPartyCoalition.org. We're going to take a break, and we'll be back with some exciting information about an individual who came from Moscow. Thank you, Adrienne.
Thank you.
We're taxed enough already. Ready.
With all the excitement happening with the Tea Party, it may be a little hard to separate fact from fiction. Find out the truth for yourself. Visit the New Jersey Tea Party Coalition's website at www.njteapartycoalition.org. You may find a common voice to your concerns on how our government is functioning, and discover a means to help restore our nation based on the proven principles of our Constitution.
It's tea time. We're taxed enough already. Ready. Tea time.
Welcome back to Tea Time. My name is Tim, and I'm here with the good folks of the New Jersey Tea Party Coalition, and I'm here with my good friend Ilya Maslov. Ilya, we've known each other for quite a while. I guess it was because our wives knew each other first. Before there was even a Tea Party, I remember being invited to your house to watch the election night results back in 2008.
Okay, yeah, that was a very exciting night.
Yes, it was a very exciting night,
And
I guess.
depressing too.
Excuse me?
Depressing too.
Depressing too. Well, yeah, you're from the former Soviet Union. I mean, you were born and raised in Moscow, and you came here to the United States. And that night, when you saw that the United States was going down the road of socialism, I remember you saying, "I've seen this movie before."
Indeed I did. I've seen this movie before.
And it's not a good thing, is it?
I'm afraid not.
Tell me, how did you get involved in the Tea Party movement, and what does it mean to you?
We know, I've been in this country for a long time, over 30 years. And I remember when I first arrived, I was mostly shocked by two things. The first thing I was shocked by was how nice and kind American people were. Because, you know, when we grow up in the Soviet Union, we were told all kinds of stories, all kinds of propaganda about American society in general, and about the people. So we were told that everybody behaves like dogs, like wolves. It's a jungle out there. But I found very shocking that American people were actually very kind, nice, and helpful to just poor immigrants like me. It was very shocking. The other thing, I was very shocked for how much American propaganda was here too. And people would meet me and say, "Oh, you're from the Soviet Union. Oh, we have so much propaganda here saying how bad things were over there, and I'm sure you have your own propaganda there too." And I would always say, yes, in the Soviet Union, we had a lot of anti-American propaganda. And when I came to this country, I was shocked. But all the mass media had a lot of anti-American propaganda.
Now, wait a minute. When you grew up in the Soviet Union, what you saw every day was anti-American propaganda coming from the Politburo.
That's correct.
But when you came here to the United States, when you tuned to the major networks
Yes.
and saw the newspapers, you saw anti-American propaganda?
Yes, that was very shocking. I couldn't understand these people, the Americans, most of them, of course, that they would write these editorials in New York Times whenever there was a conflict or disagreement between the government of the United States and the government of the Soviet Union. The editorials would always side with the enemy. I could never understand that. I still don't.
It's almost as if the people that are in the major networks and in the mainstream media want to see America fail and be destroyed in some way.
I couldn't understand because American Constitution guarantees their right to print whatever they want, and they use that right to put dirt on their own country. I could never understand, and I still don't.
It is an oddity.
It's very strange.
I mean, there is a certain amount of American exceptionalism. Growing up in the Soviet Union and what you saw there, and now that you've been here for 30 years, is there a difference between the two philosophies and countries, or was there a difference?
Well, of course. As we were growing up in Moscow, our government, the Soviet government, that is, proudly proclaimed that the socialism, the ideal society has been actually built. And that they had big banners on the buildings, like in this country we have, you know, buy Toyota cars or drink Coke. And they had slogans like the Lenin lives forever, and you living in a happy country of socialism that has been accomplished. So we grew up with them thinking this is really the best thing that ever humanity achieved.
Well, that's what they told you.
That's exactly.
But was that a true statement?
At some point in our lives, I mean, I can only speak for myself, but in some of my friends, we realized that the truth did not exactly correspond to what we were reading. And there was a very big disconnect for us.
Now here in America, they're trying to sell us things like, well, a while back they passed this socialized medicine, this idea that from each according to their means to each according to their needs seems to be the philosophy. Although, of course, we know that that's not in our U.S. Constitution. That, of course, is Karl Marx.
This sounds very familiar to me.
It does sound familiar.
In fact, I grew up with it.
Oh, well, so you're confident to say that we're going down the path of Soviet socialism in some respects?
In some respects. That's very unfortunate, of course. I mean, the funniest thing is that every generation has to make the same mistakes. I don't understand that. Even as the Western Europe went through this socialist period, now they're all coming back. They're all cutting down on spending. Even the most socialist countries like West Germany, France, they're all cutting down on spending. But we somehow in this country are 30 years behind. Have we not watched what they have done?
Well, apparently we haven't. So that's why we in the Tea Party movement are speaking out, and perhaps maybe we can get the ball rolling to get the tide turning back towards fiscal responsibility and a more conservative viewpoint in the sense of limited government, rights to the people, and speaking out. Now, when you grew up in the Soviet Union, you couldn't speak out.
Well, this is how we spoke out. We would go to the bathroom, turn the shower on, bring a transistor radio, put some music on, and then we'd tell each other jokes about politics, criticizing the government. For example, one joke we used to tell is this. There was 3 television stations in Moscow. And you say you want to watch TV, you turn to channel 1, and there would be General Secretary of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union giving a speech. You say, boring speech. Go to channel 2. Same General Secretary, same speech. I say, oh no. So go to channel 3, and there would be a KGB officer say, you turn back to channel 1 or else.
Well, I'll tell you, it's almost as if things are getting that way here in America.
Well, shockingly, when I came to this country, there was ABC, there was CBS, and NBC, and they all always sided with the Soviet government and against the United States. It's like back to Moscow.
Well, today we do have the internet, and we do have the opportunity for free speech in this country, where those of us who want to see things changed can speak freely. I often joke that with how I'm very vocal and involved in the Tea Party movement, that I've got my own little room reserved at the Gulag, which...
I bet some people would like to do that.
I'm sure there are people in the country that would like to lock us all up, because we are the opposition to what has been the status quo.
And that's the beauty of the movement, actually, I think. Because for years, I would tell these stories to private people, and of course they would marvel at it. Oh, what a horrible place Soviet Union was. We don't want to ever be like that. But now with the Tea Party coalition, I am able to speak to more people, and I'm very happy about that.
Yeah, it's amazing that people don't realize how far we've come. It's like the story or the statement of how you cook a frog. If you take boiling water and you throw the frog into it, the frog will jump out.
Right.
But if you put the frog in nice cold water and you turn up the temperature and just let it simmer little by little, eventually that frog will cook.
Well, it's a death by 1,000 cuts.
That's true. Yeah, a little bit of losing freedom here, a little bit of losing freedom there, and eventually we'll have no freedom at all. Yeah, I think it was Ronald Reagan, and I understand you were a big fan of Ronald Reagan.
Big fan.
And he said that one day we may wake up and find that we have socialism. It's unfortunate that perhaps maybe he could be right, unless we all speak out and speak up.
But I think people are waking up. I mean, most of the people who oppose this government don't really know exactly why they're opposed to it. They feel it in their guts that something is not quite right. So I think the Tea Party can maybe put some contents in their discontent.